To welcome everyone to our town hall. This is our first town hall that we have hosted under this name, but we are really looking forward to hearing from President Hinton updates about campus. We're so grateful to the many of you all who submitted questions in advance. Many of those are worked into her talking this evening, but then we also have a time for those at the end. So again, if you're just joining us, you'll see the chat is active as we share our names and class years. And it really just gives me great pleasure to introduce our 13th president, Mary Dana Hinton. Believe it or not, she's been on campus now almost 2 years, and her leadership just continues to inspire all of us. And I'm really delighted, President Hinton, to hear from you this evening and just share the great updates with all of our alumni.
Thank you, Lauren. I am so grateful to you for arranging this event, to Rachel, Shion, Susie, everyone who's helping us be together. So good evening from Roanoke. What a joy it is to be with you tonight. As we begin our time together this evening, I want to take just a moment to set the scene. So it is a beautiful, beautiful spring evening here in Roanoke. It's probably in the mid 60s. And as I was walking into the Koch building tonight, I encountered students heading off to their evening classes. Some had on cowboy boots, some had on cat ears. Most had big cups of coffee and food and containers, and they were joyful. To a student, they were joyful. There's just a great feeling on campus right now. And part of that is because we're just back from spring break. Our seniors are getting fantastic good news about graduate school and employment. And it's just a really wonderful feeling on campus today. So as you said, and as you hear my words, I hope that you'll picture yourself here on Front Quad in what I consider the golden hour. The sun is gently setting. If you listen carefully, you might hear a little laughter in the background. And I will tell you, it is evenings like this one that serve as such a powerful reminder of the importance, the resonance, the relevance, and the humanity of our work at Hollins. You know, it's so easy to be curious about one element or particular element of the Hollins experience. What's happening on campus? What will reunion be like? How is philanthropy going? But you can't fully understand one element of Hollins without understanding that all of the pieces of our beloved Hollins are interconnected. So tonight, I'm going to endeavor to share with you a holistic overview of who we are at this moment. And my most fervent hope is that you will be a witness to the fact that there are elements here on campus that have remained consistent since our founding. There are elements on campus that change every day. And there are elements that we cannot predict, but that we are planning for in order to successfully engage the future. Now, I will tell you, as the president, I often think of my work in three parts, and I think many leaders do. There's our mission, there's the business model, and then there's the culture of the organization. And without a doubt, our mission at Hollins is our very essence. It is why we exist. And one of the best parts of my job is that I get to go out and proclaim the mission to the world. And so I'm going to proclaim it tonight because, as you know, our mission reads that Hollins is an independent liberal arts university dedicated to academic excellence and humane values. Hollins offers undergraduate liberal arts education for women, select graduate programs for men and women, and community outreach initiatives. The Hollins curriculum and co-curricular programs prepare students for lives of active learning, fulfilling work, personal growth, achievement, and service to society. Next, we talk about the fact that the Hollins community sustains talented students engaged in challenging study and productive scholars and artists devoted to teaching and to the advancement of knowledge. Experiential learning, study abroad, and internships enhance the academic program. And the hallmarks of a Hollins education are creativity, effective self-expression, problem solving, critical thinking skills, and independent inquiry and the free exchange of ideas. Hollins nurtures civility, integrity, and concern for others, encourages and values diversity and social justice, and affirms the equal worth of women and men. Our university motto, Levavi Oculos, calls us to leadership and service in accord with the Hollins values and traditions. I know our mission statement is long and no one likes to be read to, but I think it's so important for us to remember what grounds us in this place. For each one of you to think about how this mission supported you, nurtured you, and launched you out into the world as leaders. So I always think it's worthwhile to start with the mission and to remember the mission. And I hope that seeing it or hearing it makes you feel as if you're back here at home. You see, the funny thing about our mission is that it's dynamic, because how it lives out differs with each person we encounter. And yet at the same time, your mission is a stabilizing function. It ensures continuity across time and place. Our mission ensures that each beating heart of Hollins is tethered to those with whom they share experiences. So whether you're in the class of 1955 or 70 years later, the class of 2025, we are tethered because of this mission, because of this shared experience. And of course, our mission speaks to our academic program, and the academic enterprise remains the very heart of the experience. So I want to start by chatting about our academic program. Now, you'll be pleased to know that today at both the undergraduate and graduate levels, we continue to shine academically. Without question, the pandemic took a toll on our faculty as they pivoted to online instruction, and then over the last 18 months began engaging in hybrid instruction. But it didn't stop our faculty. They continued to journey alongside our students who have also experienced significant academic disruption. And yet, even in the face of those challenges, our faculty have worked to ensure our strength. They've continued to do undergraduate research. They've continued to mentor and support our students. And they've even been working tirelessly on a new general education program. As you'll all remember, it is through our Gen Ed program that we ensure every student, regardless of major, is exposed to and dwells within our liberal arts framework. It's in Gen Ed that students learn how an art class can inform a history class, or how a philosophy course can help us interrogate a business class. You know, for so many, Gen Ed is where people find their voice and their passion. So it's important that we consistently update and assess Gen Ed, because Gen Ed gets to the very heart of our mission. So be assured that that is going really well, and I may have an opportunity to talk about that a bit more towards the end. And of course, as you know from our mission statement, our mission calls us to continue to identify and lift up the needs of women at the undergraduate level. And an interesting fact is that women's college students make up less than 2% of the college population, but 25% of the women in Congress and about a third of the women on Fortune 100 boards attended women's colleges. So we know the value is there. And we also continue to think about what being a college for women at the undergraduate level and a coeducational university at the graduate level means in a complex world. You'll be pleased to know that we're not only thriving at the undergraduate level, but that our graduate programs and continuing education are also sectors in the higher education landscape that we continue to nurture. In a post-COVID world, we think it's likely that many people will return to colleges and universities for further education and additional credentials. And we believe that Hollins and the values that guide us will be an essential part of this conversation, as we provide programs across a range of fields, including those we are known for, like the creative and performing arts, education, and professional fields. But we are also asking how we can support, develop, and resource our graduate and continuing education programs and support our students so that they accomplish many great things, again, whether at the undergraduate or graduate level. And importantly, when we think about our mission, we think about our faculty, whether undergraduate or graduate, whether in the classroom or outside. And we find ourselves continuing to invest in and rebuilding our faculty, ensuring that we have a sufficient number of faculty to support what is an incredibly dynamic academic program. And this photo is from commencement 2019, I'm guessing. I don't see masks, so I'm guessing it's pre-pandemic. And you can see Jeffrey Bullock and Rachel Nunez. There's Allison Ridley and others there in the background. So we continue to honor, salute, and thank our faculty for all they've done to help us keep our beating heart of the academic program thriving in this moment. Now, we believe in and invest in our mission because that is what will not only support us now, but it is what will sustain us in the future. So it is because we cherish our mission that we must be attentive to our business model, the second thing that presidents all across higher ed think about. Now, in higher education, the business model is basically three elements. You have tuition revenue, endowment revenue, and the funds raised in a given year. So allow me to take just a moment to talk about how we are faring in this area as well. And again, I'm going to start with some pretty great news. We are thriving at Hollins. There's no question about it. But I also want to acknowledge that the higher education marketplace is challenging and terribly complex right now. Our institutional successes are largely counter-narrative in higher ed, so we can never take them for granted, nor can we ease up on what we are doing. For example, as you've all likely heard, higher education is facing what's widely known as a demographic cliff, meaning that the numbers of high school graduates will be decreasing significantly over the next 5 years. And the growth places in the market are among lower income, first generation, and student of color population. And we see that dynamic nationwide. When you add to that the pandemic, and we know that all students, regardless of demographic background, have experienced meaningful academic disruption and setbacks. So it is a really challenging moment in higher education. But friends, I want to tell you, it is also a rewarding moment as we take our mission out into the world and invite students in to be a part of us. We are so fortunate to have a truly exceptional enrollment team, and their results have been wonderful. As you can see, we're experiencing steady growth in an unsteady market. In fact, on this slide, and don't worry about reading all the things at the bottom, but for most of the CICV schools, they're seeing a decline in enrollment. Hollins University is here, and we are seeing growth in enrollment. And I think that's something to be really proud of. There are fewer schools seeing an upward enrollment trend, and for Hollins to be among those schools is really fantastic. Now, we know that these fortunes can change quickly, so we aren't just relying on the great success we've had over the past couple of years, but we are also endeavoring to develop structures that support our ongoing success. For example, like nearly 80% of four-year institutions, we made SAT and ACT tests optional for students applying for admission to Hollins. We have long known that those standardized tests are not particularly useful in predicting student success. So to be able to remove them as a barrier to entry has been helpful. And we've not seen any decline in the academic profile of our students as a result. So that's a structural change that has been quite beneficial. There's also an opportunity for Hollins to play its part to fulfill the aspirations of 80% of transfer students who want to earn a bachelor's degree, but only 14% of whom graduate with a degree in 6 years. So here I'm talking about community college students who start at a community college. 80% say they want a bachelor's degree, but sadly only 14% achieve one. Well, last fall, our faculty passed a new policy to make it easier for transfer students to transfer into Hollins. Nationwide, about 20% of incoming students at four-year institutions are transfer students. Here at Hollins, that number is about 6%, but it's a number that's growing, and we're really excited about that. But here's the best news. We have a higher than average completion rate among our transfer students. About 92% of students who transfer from community college to Hollins ultimately graduate with their degree. So think about that. 80% want to get the degree, only 14% do. But here at Hollins, if you transfer in, 92% of those students will graduate. That's a lot to be proud of. So the work of generating tuition revenue, yes, it comes from entering students, but it also comes from retaining students. And I think so often we think about entering classes as the source of tuition revenue, but the majority of tuition revenue comes from returning students. And honestly, this is an area where we need to do more and better work. And I'll share with you in a few moments how we're approaching that. But one thing we have learned is that income has been a predictor of student success at Hollins. And that's something we really need to directly address, since your family income shouldn't decide your fate as a student. We know that limited income students persist at lower percentages than those who are not limited income. And so we are clearly working on this. And one thing we found this year is when we look at completion rates of classes graduating in 2019, 20, and 21, it's clear that regardless of ethnicity or race, financial need was the biggest predictor of completion. So we're really working hard to remove those barriers imposed by income. Speaking of income and barriers to students, the next two prongs of our business model are related: fundraising and endowment. Hollins is so fortunate to have a significant endowment. And I hope that as you see that number on your screen, you're all doing a little happy dance wherever you are on the Zoom, because I will happy dance with you. It is this endowment which makes it possible for us to provide outstanding financial support to our students. In fact, we provide about $21 million in financial support each year. That's because of your generosity and this endowment that we're able to provide so much scholarship support. The endowment is the part of the business model that ensures the legacy of our mission. And of course, we are still celebrating the fact that an anonymous alumna looked at our mission, sought to understand our vision, and then made a commitment to supporting Hollins in a way no other women's college and very few other colleges have experienced. Her amazing gift of $75 million provides a foundation for us to thrive in the future. And I use the word foundation intentionally because a solid foundation is necessary, but not sufficient to build a home. And that's what Hollins is. And that's where all the rest of us come in. Every one of us has a job to do to build on that foundation. On campus, we have to pour our hearts and minds into creating an academic experience worthy of our donors' belief and that honors this foundation she's built. Our alumni and donors must help us continue to make Hollins a home with their gifts. And I know that some have speculated that we no longer need their gifts given this major gift. That couldn't be further from the truth. To whom much is given, much is required. And now much more is required of each of us. Whether time, talent, or treasure, we must now do our part to be worthy of this gift, a gift she made in honor of each of us. And please know that many are hearing the call as we continue to raise funds for the Hollins Fund, which is an essential annual fundraising effort not impacted by the gift. We continue to seek support for the new apartment village, one of several essential elements to improve our facilities. We're investing in athletics and the riding program as support is needed there as well, and more. So please join me in viewing this gift as a call to action, a call to more, a call to the future. Now, know that you are not alone in hearing that call. Last year and this, many of my faculty and staff colleagues joined me in a fabulous effort called the Imagination Campaign. And the Imagination Campaign was a result of our entire campus community coming together to imagine a vibrant future, to imagine what we could do collectively to make that future possible. And we are making that future possible through our collective effort. In fact, I believe what made it possible for us to envision and implement the Imagination Campaign is related to our comprehensive response to the pandemic. So you may be thinking, what does the pandemic have to do with the Imagination Campaign? You see, we learned very early on in the pandemic that all of us in this community could count on and trust one another. For several early months of my presidency, we functioned as though our very lives depended on one another. We adopted the phrase collective responsibility and mutual accountability as our North Star so that we could dwell in community while also being as safe as possible. But that sense of interdependence and connection allowed us to be generative in all we do and to create a culture of care that goes well beyond the pandemic. In fact, that culture of care and connection does now define our culture. To be clear, it does not mean that we are perfect or that we are all walking in lockstep. To the contrary, we are creating space and time where we can support and listen to differing viewpoints to be faithful to ourselves, to oneself. But I believe that the context on campus right now, a context that demands careful attention and tending, is one of connection. You see, it's connection between people that allows us to fulfill our mission. Without people, a mission is just a word on paper. It's the people who make the mission possible. So deep care for people matters. That care is evident in many, many ways. You know, at this moment, with the great resignation and constant short staffing that we're experiencing, I'm watching people across campus at every level give more of themselves, even as we all, as I'm sure many of you are, experiencing deep fatigue. You know, I shared with the board recently that I have had the privilege of addressing a massive water leak with facilities at 1 a.m. The cabinet and I cleaned dormitory rooms before students returned to campus for the spring semester. And I am sincere when I say that each of these moments has been a privilege. We have a community of people who are doing everything they can to ensure Hollins is open, as safe as possible, and a place where people can thrive. Each person on this campus has brought their full selves to that endeavor, and it is truly, truly a great privilege to work alongside them in service to our students. And last, but certainly not least, please know that our students continue to thrive in their daily lives as well. Our students are fearless in their approach to learning. For example, our students are out engaging the world and applying their learning and their leadership. Across academic majors, students are engaging in experiential learning, with more than 75% participating in one internship, and 50% of our students participate in more than one. Over 50% of our students study abroad. And at this very moment, We have students in places like Costa Rica, Italy, Kenya, London, Paris, Spain, and Tanzania. Our students are in the world making a difference. And we're also seeing a wonderful return to our Holland's traditions here at home, traditions which define and animate our community. Traditions which our students are intentionally and passionately sharing with the community. And I am so proud of watching this unfold together. When I speak of community, I am speaking of a community that is diverse and supportive of every student. You see, part of our intentional culture now is creating a culture of success, well-being, and belonging, developing and creating structures that support all students and enable them to thrive. And I'm so proud of how well we serve our students, because that is what Hollins has always done. We've supported students who have otherwise not been well served in higher education. And we did that at our very founding 180 years ago, when educating women was a revolutionary act. And we do it today, again, with folks not well served in higher ed. Today's undergraduate student body at the start of this year was 36% low income, 32% first generation, and 30% students of color. That reflects our over 700 undergraduate students. And we are developing new opportunities to ensure that our first generation, low income, and students of color can be successful, so that all students, regardless of their demographic background, can be successful. And we are having a tremendous impact. And that's not just me saying it as a very proud president. That impact is being talked about nationally. In fact, US News ranked Hollins number 16 in social mobility among liberal arts colleges in the nation. And to support that culture, we announced a few weeks ago that we are renaming our student affairs area, and it will now be the Office of Student Success, Well-Being, and Belonging. And this new designation signals the comprehensive nature of the area and its goal. It signals the focus on holistic student well-being, deep collaboration between student success, DEI, academic affairs, and student affairs. It's a comprehensive structure to support success and persistence. It's focused on belonging and deep engagement with students. It privileges understanding and respect for campus traditions, and it provides support for the needs of professional staff. We are so proud of that. And I believe with my whole heart that this new student success ecosystem will provide the care, support, and experiences necessary for our students to thrive, and it will distinguish Hollins from other institutions. We know that by embedding DEI into this work for every student, we will find tremendous success. I am so excited and often pondering the intentional, engaging, and challenging work that this community has done thus far this academic year. And I am so proud of all that we have accomplished. We have confidently moved forward to uncover, examine, and respond to critically important DEI issues. We're looking at entrenched problems while also developing policies and practices that help us to be more equitable in how we encounter and embrace that mission that informs all that we do. And that is as it should be. The deep issues with which we are wrestling won't be solved in a day, a week, a month, a year, or with a single program or initiative. It's when all of us engage in the continuous work of meaning making, of reflection, and of incremental yet sustained change. And when I say all of us, I mean each of you. Our more than 14,000 alumni have a role to play in our success. You are critical to the success of our students, whether it's through mentoring or helping to structure internships. You have been essential. Thanks to you, our 10th anniversary of C3 was a rousing success. And I just want to say that was not this fall because we would have been masked, though that is Sarah Himes there in the photo. But you've been critical to our success. This year, we had, thanks to you, 45 signature internships. We had 11 first-year internships here in Roanoke, thanks to you. 61 students had independent internships that they obtained with the help of faculty, alums, and our Career Center staff. So you are critically important, and your work remains critical in terms of supporting our Day of Giving on April 7th. Your support remains critical, referring students for admission. Your support remains critical, coming out to gatherings to think, to plan, and to celebrate together. Come to reunion if it's one of your class years. We need you here. So please allow me to end with a quote. And many of you have heard this before, but I share it because it rests in my heart. Gratitude is so much more than a polite thank you. It is a thread that connects us in deep relationship, simultaneously physical and spiritual, as our bodies are fed and spirits nourished by the sense of belonging, which is the most vital of foods. Thank you for all you do, for who you are, and for believing in Hollins. I truly, truly appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary. Really awesome. And I know we have some questions and some raised hands. I want to first turn, we had some alumni who have been in touch with us in advance. So I want to first turn to those questions and get to those first. So I want to go ahead and if we could, Rachel, show our first alumni question.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Antoinette Hillian from the class of 2000 and the current president of the Hollins Alumni Board. President Hinton, whenever we're engaging with alums, there's one question that we almost always get. Could you please tell us, what is a typical day like for a current Hollins student?
Thank you, Antoinette, for your leadership, your service on the Alumni Board and on the Board of Trustees. I could talk about students' experiences all day long, but I think there's some other voices that you may find interesting. So I'm going to yield my time and see if maybe Zoe might want to share what her day is like.
Hello, I'd say that as a Hollins student, no 2 days of mine are exactly the same, but they always include education, community, and leadership. And of course, always feeling supported by my Hollins family. Thank you.
So Zoe's right, education, community, and leadership. I hope you all see yourselves there. But then I thought maybe, Antoinette, you want a more detailed answer, and Isabella has provided one for you.
Hello, my name is Isabella Jesse, and I am a senior at Hollins University. I am a pre-med student majoring in biology and minoring in chemistry. I'm also a work study student with President Hinton in the president's office. Mondays for me are usually my busiest. I will have immunology 9:10 to 10:10, followed by analytical chemistry 10:20 to 11:20. And I'll have a little bit of a break where I can go home since I'm a commuter student. So I'll go home, grab lunch, back to school 1:30 to 4:30 for analytical chemistry lab. After that, I'll come home and do homework, whatever I need to do around the house. And then Tuesday, I have my meeting with my advisor for my senior thesis research project, which is about honeybees. So I'll have that meeting, do any lab work that needs to get done, and those are usually early meetings as well. Then I'll have a break for lunch again, and then 1 to 4, I will have wheel thrown ceramics in the Visual Arts Center. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday are basically a repeat of that, minus analytical chemistry lab, because lab is only 1 day a week. And then I will have work study in the president's office Wednesdays and Fridays.
So much to share about Isabella. So yes, Isabella was wearing a Holly Collies t-shirt there. So I hope that that helped you all feel good. It makes me feel great. Isabella is not only a pre-med student researching honeybees and engaging in wheel throwing ceramics. Isabella is also Miss Roanoke Valley and was Miss Outstanding Teen Virginia. And so she's pretty spectacular. All of our students are so active and involved, and we are so proud of all of their accomplishments. But I also know two more short things that I want to share with you. I know many of you studied abroad and you wonder what study abroad is like. And so I'm going to ask if we could just get a little update from our student who studied abroad this past fall.
I got the opportunity to study abroad in Paris in the fall of 2022. And it has been such a unique experience in that nothing could really replace such an immersive experience. Expands your world with the process of learning by witnessing. And it challenges and pushes you. It challenged and pushed me to open my mind to a whole another way of living, thinking, and being in a whole different continent, especially as an international studies major, being exposed to a city as iconic as Paris with its fashion, its history, its art and architecture, its culture and language has been the highlight of my academic experience and life so far.
So it's hard not to be moved by Lena. Lena is also our SGA president this year and is a spectacular, spectacular student. Just one last video from our students that I want to share. And this is from a graduate student, Elena Katrin, because I want us to be certain that we're thinking about how are our graduate students faring as well. So Elena is going to reflect on her experience next.
Hi, I'm Elena Katrin, and I'm a second-year MFA student here at Hollins University. Being a part of this graduate program has really meant a lot to me, and as I'm approaching graduation, I'm using this time to actually reflect on my experiences at Hollins, and I'm realizing that one of the main things that actually attracted me to this school is the sense of community that was palpable even as I was reading Hollins' website. And it is exactly what I'm leaving my graduate school experience with, just this overwhelming sense of support and friendship and community that I was able to find during my time here. I know that the friendships that I've built here are going to stay with me for the rest of my life, for years beyond even graduation. And the people who I've met have been supporting me both personally and professionally. And I'm just really grateful for my time here and for the people who I've met thanks to this program.
So inspiring.
My cheeks hurt. I'm smiling so hard.
It's wonderful. It's always so great to hear what our students are up to and what a good representation of the activities of which they're involved in and how their days are so similar to ours, yet really Hollins is growing and changing. So we have another question for you, President Hinton.
Hi, President Hinton. This is Kristen Henshaw, class of 1994, and a current alumni board member. I have a question for you tonight from one of our local Richmond, Virginia alumni. And she asks, can you talk to us a little bit about the general education requirements for students and how we are helping to prepare them for success in the 21st century?
Absolutely. And thank you for the question. And I am happy to. So as you all will recall, general education are the courses that everyone takes here at Hollins. Again, it's what tethers us through that shared experience. And right now, our general education program, like many across the higher ed landscape, is a distributive model, which means that students take X number of courses in a particular discipline or under a particular heading or course. So you have to take this in the natural science or this related to history or philosophy. So it's a distributive model where students really select the courses that are identified as gen ed courses and that fulfill the requirement. And that has served us well. But as I mentioned earlier, the faculty are also working on a new general education program. They've been engaged in this work for 2.5 years now. It is being led by Rachel Nunez. She's in the history department and she's working with a committee of faculty. And this new curriculum that's being proposed is beautiful in so many ways. One, it's a thematic curriculum, which means that there are 2 main threads that are guiding the new proposed gen ed curriculum. The first is the notion of telling your story. And I am going to just sort of share directly from their information. We at Hollins want every student to leave here with a clear sense of who they are and what they want to do in the world, though of course that will evolve. But what they are proposing is that the first half of the gen ed curriculum really focuses on understanding yourself. How do you reflect on your background and experience? What hopes and assumptions do you bring with you? What are your goals and aspirations? And so we really are working on helping students understand who they are, and what they're bringing to Hollins. But then the second pillar is this fantastic notion of telling your story. And so once you understand your story, then you tell it through engaged citizenship. So telling your story is this inward-looking journey, but then you go out into the world and you lead and you engage. And so these 2 threads are what hold our curriculum together. They ask questions about how can your knowledge and experience serve others? What is your responsibility towards other communities, towards the natural environment? And the curriculum builds on itself over 4 years. So we are really excited as we think about this new opportunity to scaffold learning for our students and to increase the number of shared experiences. It is a thing of beauty, and I can't wait until we're able to bring it out fully to the community. One thing that I do want to just be certain I add is that the importance of experiential learning, it's mentioned in our mission, it's critical to Gen Ed now, and it will be critical in our new Gen Ed program. In fact, as you all know, we have the Rutherford Center for Experiential Learning, which looks at undergraduate research, study abroad, and internships. And I'm so excited for that work. And I just need to sneak one more student in to talk about experiential learning, if that's okay.
Hello, my name is Tyler Susker. I'm in the class of 2022. I'm a general studies major and a social justice minor, and my favorite experiential learning experience is being at Hollins as we're working at Georgetown Law and the Criminal Justice Clinic. I had the opportunity to go in the court system and the legal system, also to go in the jails and interact with clients one-on-one, interact with our attorneys one-on-one, and get an experience that has propelled me to leading my own law experience and applying to law school for the next fall.
So Tyler has worked at the Georgetown Law Clinic. She's worked in prisons. She is working on her thesis right now, and she will go to law school in the fall of 2023. She's also played basketball and volleyball and is the very heart and spirit of this class.
So inspiring and so great. We're going to stay with our theme of learning on campus for this next question.
Hi, my name is Emily Morgan from the Mighty Fine class of 1979. I'm also a current member of the Hollins Alumni Board. Thank you so much, President Hinton, for your time tonight. It's greatly appreciated. And I wanted to share a question that had come in anonymously. How are the faculty making adjustments for the learning loss that high schoolers have experienced during the COVID-19 pandemic? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Emily, for a great question. And I alluded to this a bit in my remarks, but it really has been a tremendous 2 years navigating the pandemic from a purely academic perspective. So our faculty made incredible shifts in order to bring learning online, not just to teach on Zoom, but to bring learning online. And in some ways, it's for some a little bit easier when everything is online. You know, the hybrid piece is really difficult because you've got to attend to your class that's right in front of you, attend to those online. And our faculty have worked really hard to bring authentic learning. Right now, we are largely face-to-face. We're only online when someone might need to be in quarantine or if they're not able to get back to campus, but we are largely face-to-face. But beyond how faculty have navigated, what is really challenging at times is seeing what's happened to students. We have students who entered into our class that entered in the fall, so the class of 2025, that had been out of the classroom for 18 months. So what we're seeing in the classroom are students with really uneven academic experiences. And there's always some degree of that. Different schools prepare you differently, but that unevenness is really readily apparent now. We are seeing learning loss. You know, the research is showing that there's probably at least a 12-month learning loss for many students. That learning loss is greater for some populations than other populations. And so what our faculty have just done an excellent job at is trying to meet students where they are. We spent much of last summer preparing for the learning loss we knew we were going to see. And we've also spent a lot of time thinking about the emotional toll and the need for sort of reacclimation to social life. And those two have been big issues that we continue to navigate. This May, we're going to have a great community-wide conversation, including with our board, on the toll of the pandemic on students. So I hats off to our faculty and to our students who have proven themselves to be resilient despite the unevenness and the losses that they've experienced.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much, President Hinton. We now have a two-part question from one of our alumni.
Hi, I'm Sandy Kirkpatrick, class of 1980. I have two questions concerning diversity, equity, and inclusion at the two ends, the bookends of the Holland student experience. First in admissions, and then at the other end, student debt upon graduation. So in admissions, my question is, does Holland still use standardized tests like the SAT and the ACT in reviewing applications? The concern here is that there's been concerns raised about racial bias in the tests, that students of wealth are advantaged in preparing for the test and getting specialized coaching and test prep and so on. And also because those tests have not proven to be particularly accurate indicators of a student's academic success in college. So that's the admissions side of the question. The other is, what is Holland's doing to reduce or eliminate student debt? I'm not really asking how many students receive financial aid. I'm asking how many students graduate from Holland's with serious student debt, and what is Holland's doing to turn that around? And I feel this is a particularly important question for a women's college because women have not achieved pay equity in this country. And so women who have student debt, the debt lasts much longer. And this is particularly worse for women of color. Thank you.
Sandy, thank you for your question. It is a thoughtful one. And I believe I mentioned during the remarks that we have made SAT and ACT optional for all students applying for admission to Holland. So a student can submit their SAT or ACT scores, but they don't have to. We first temporarily suspended the requirement in spring of 2020, and then our faculty voted to make it a permanent optional submission in the fall of 2020. And that makes sense for all the reasons that you pointed out, Sandy. They're not terribly useful tools in predicting success, and it has become a barrier for many. So I'm very proud of Holland's work around that. You also asked about student debt, and I feel obligated, one, to affirm what you said about women's pay equity. And this year, Equal Pay Day, and that's the day that highlights how far into a new year a woman must work on average to earn what a man did in the previous year. Well, this year that was March 15th, Sandy. So for a woman to earn as much as a man did in 2021, that woman had to work until March 15th. So you were right and savvy to ask that question. Our average student debt well, let me give you, for a private nonprofit institution, the average student debt upon graduation is $34,000, $34,400. At Hollins, that number is $34,424. So we are right there at the average. We don't see a lot of students graduating with what one would consider that six-figure debt that makes the news. That really only applies to about 2% of college students who have that type of debt graduating. What are we doing to minimize student debt? We really privilege scholarships and grants to students. We work really hard to package students responsibly. And I'm really proud that our students are graduating with manageable amounts of debt and debt that's in line with other private nonprofit institutions. And Lauren, I know we're running low on time. I don't know if you want to call on the hands raised or if we want to go through a couple of more questions. It's totally up to you.
This next question is from here in the Roanoke Valley, and I think really just shares an exciting update for those who may not be kind of in the loop. So let's hear what's going on from that alumna.
Absolutely.
Hello, I'm Blair Seeley, class of 2003 and a Roanoke area-based member of the Alumni Board. I have a question that was submitted anonymously this evening. How is outreach going in the Roanoke regional community? What kind of response have we seen from the Hope Scholarship? And what steps are we taking to retain our local students?
Thank you. That is such a great question. And hello, I know you're in the room with us. Well, you raised so many good points. Access is a necessary but not sufficient part of student success. But we are really, really proud of some moves we've made to increase access. And this came out of the Imagination campaign. And the Hope Scholarship that was referenced is our Hollins Opportunity for Promise Through Education, or HOPE. And it's a Roanoke regional program that enables accepted students who meet the criteria to attend Hollins tuition free for 4 years. And the criteria are you have to be admitted under our current admission standards, so you have a high academic profile, and preference is given to students who have an adjusted family income of $50,000 per year. So our HOPE program has been tremendous. We've gotten tremendous coverage in the Roanoke area. We've gotten great outpouring of applications. So this year, and we launched HOPE in October, we had over 88 inquiries. We offered 53 HOPE scholarships, and 24 of those students have enrolled to date. But even more, the number of visits from local students, whether they're eligible for HOPE or not, has nearly doubled. And that's pretty incredible that this program, which is targeted towards a particular population, has really impacted our entire sort of the perception of us in the region. In fact, our application numbers from the region have also seen a positive impact and have improved 47% compared to last year. So as you see, and as you pointed out, we can do great work serving many populations, as well as supporting our thriving well into the future.
So awesome, and something we can all be very, very proud of. Wyndham, you've been so patient. I'm going to allow you to talk. Thank you for bearing with us so we can hear our final question.
Good evening, President Christine Kamacha.
I think we have competing
We do.
talks right now. It's Zoom, folks. What do you want? Wyndham, you can go ahead, and I know there's some others who've raised their hands, and so please, we're excited for your question.
Wyndham, you'll just need to, I'm going to try to unmute you. Oh,
There
here
you
we
go.
go.
Am I unmuted?
Yes,
Can you hear
ma'am.
me? Okay, great. Well, I'm curious to know, I'd like to ask you a little bit about goals.
Okay.
Because I think it's important to have goals. And I'd love to know what goal you have in mind for graduation rates.
I am happy to talk about that. And Wyndham, I don't know if you can see the chat, but Mary Flynn says, hey, Wyndham. So there you go.
Hey, Mary.
Yeah, I am happy to. You know, I feel very strongly that when you admit a student to an institution, you have a moral obligation to retain and graduate that student. Now, certainly, we know that if circumstances arise, a student changes their academic track, a family moves, things can happen that can interrupt that. But my philosophy is that our job is to retain all of the students that we recruit. And so when you look at the most elite universities, you see retention rates between 85 and 95%, let's say. And that's my goal for us. Last year, our retention rate was 78%. This year that we're in right now, it was about 75%. My goal for this year, when we go from the spring to the fall, is to have an 80% retention rate. And my goal was within 5 years for us to have an 85% retention rate. Again, for me, that's a moral obligation, but it is also what we need to do to support our students and to be have a sustainable business model. So that's my goal, Wyndham. I think we can achieve it. But I do think it requires intentional work, some of which I've described this evening.
Well, I think these numbers are higher than they used to be, the two numbers that you mentioned for recent period.
Indeed, they are. And it was intentional work in 2019-20 and 2020-2021 that have helped those numbers to increase. But it takes a village, Wyndham, to get.
Well, I know it does. And congratulations, because that's terrific.
Thank you.
And I hope you make your goal.
Oh, we will have some, we'll have some setbacks. We'll have some great successes, but we are going to get there. And I'm excited, again, because we owe that to our students.
Great.
Awesome. Well, unfortunately, our time together is coming to a close as we move towards that 8 o'clock hour. I know there have been a few questions in the chat that I will definitely make sure we follow up with you on. And please feel free to email me directly or to email the alumni office, Susie Mink. All of us are here to help answer your questions. It was such a joy and a gift to be with you all tonight, to hear this exciting update. We have recorded the session and look forward to sharing it broadly. And I hope when we do this again, we can all invite our friends and colleagues to be in community with us because it really is a joy and a gift. President Hinton, thank you so very much.
Thank you, Lauren. And friends, thank you for being here. For those who had their hands raised and we didn't get to, please don't hesitate to email me at president@hollins.edu. I'm happy to chat with you anytime. I try to sign off all things with the Levavi Oculos, and for this group particularly, Levavi Oculos, everyone.